Welcome to Dragonfire Investigative Research. The date today is July 30th, 2025, and the time is approximately 12:45 p.m. What I am going to attempt to do today is bring about predictions that were stated approximately 60 years ago. These are predictions and not prophecies. These are predictions that has to do with science and also revolves around religion. I am going to be reading passages from a certain book, which I will reveal this book at the end of the video. A lot of what I will be reading gets a little bit heavy with the tech jargon, and I am not tech savvy per se, so please bear along and enjoy the ride. These are predictions, once again, made a half a century, give or take, in the past, and which they have come about over all these years. They are very relevant in current times as well as pertaining to the future. Let us begin. The tremendous possibilities of manipulating the genetic code are no visionary dream. We are dealing with scientific facts. Of course, between yesterday and tomorrow lies the abyss that will be crossed. Most probably, we shall only rediscover something that has already happened. One day, new knowledge and techniques will create a human organism suited for interstellar flight, one that will not fall sick and will be equal to all the burdens and stresses imposed upon it. Medical science has been performing transplants of organs for more than 20 years. Remember, this is reading from a book that was published and copywritten in 1968 within its first publication. But unproductive organs for more than but unproductive and unpleasant sensation mongering about these important scientific operations did not begin until after the first heart transplant, when pieces of skin were transplanted in the 1940s, when bones were changed in 1948, and when a kidney was transplanted in 1950, there was not a murmur. In 1954, the first transplant of a limb onto a dog was successful. In 1955, somebody else's lung was inserted into a man. In 1967, a pancreas was transplanted, and in 1969, doctors risked the transplant of a liver. There were successful transplants of other organs besides that. Now, this is in the author's words, and even though we had the date of 1967, again, the original copyright of publishing was 1968. So I don't know why there's a little bit of a flip-flop there, but let's continue on. This is once again through the author's narrative. I believe that organ transplants too are only a programming that the DNA double helix in the nucleus with information for the construction or reconstruction of organs. The Frankenstein methods will soon be forgotten. The Russian scientist L.V. Palenchev, whatever, is already able to make a damaged scalp regenerate itself independently, and he has even managed to make amputated limbs start to grow again. One day there will be gene surgery as well. Sheer fantasy? I do not think so, because I know that Dr. Tae-Ping Lin of San Francisco succeeded in giving a mouse's egg an injection as early as 1966. A mouse's egg is only 1/10 the size of a red corpuscle and cannot be seen at all with the naked eye. Now, from there, if you should remember, there is a link that will be included within the description pertaining to brain towers grown within mouse goo. Okay? So just keep that at the back of your head, and we'll continue on. Professor E.H. Grohl, director of the Institute for Radiobiology and the Medical Use of Isotopes at Phillips University in Marburg, and the cybergenicist Dr. Herbert W. Frank gave a forecast of medicine and its fringe areas in the years 1985 and 2000 in the Deutschen Arztblatt. Forecast for the year 1985. Mastery of transplanting animal and human organs, elimination of immune reactions, routine use of artificially made organs and or biological systems, which artificial organs made of plastics and or electronic components on cyborg lines. Marked progress in the gerontological and geriatric field. The average expectation of life is about 85 years. The aging process will be manipulated advantageously. The degeneration inherent in old age will be slowed down both physically and psychically. The first positive conclusions about the production of primitive life forms of artificial life. Biomedical electronics will influence practical medicine. For example, electronic artificial limbs, radar for the blind, limbs with servo mechanisms, and many other things. Forecast for the year 2000. Deep freezing of men for hours or days. Determination of a child's sex before birth. Possibilities of transplanting all organs. The correction of hereditary defects. Continuous genetic manipulation of animals and plants. Production of artificial forms of primitive life. Use of X-ray and gamma-type laser beams. General biochemical immunizations against diseases. General diffusion of the cyborg technique or artificial organs. Manipulation of organisms by electric stimulation of the brain. Drugs for the control of man's emotional states. Chemical aids for the improvement of memory and the ability to learn. I suggest that unknown intelligences were able to do all these things in the dim midst of time. I suggest that the gods left this knowledge behind when they visited Earth. I suggest that discoveries which still lie ahead of us in the broad field of research have been stored in the human memory since time immemorial and are only awaiting to be summoned up again. The experiments of David E. Bressler of the University of Los Angeles and Morton Edward Bittermans of the Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania are a step along this road. They implanted additional brain cells into fish. The fish, enriched with the transplanted brain substances, soon proved to be much more intelligent than their untreated fellows. Cleveland Clinic in Ohio is conducting a series of experiments in which monkey brains are put into dogs. Alright, now are you ready for this? Let us examine another possibility. The thinking computer will also be useful to man in the peaceful conquest of the universe. However, startling its calculating achievements may seem today, the supplying of information by the electronic wonder is still in its infancy. About 200 years ago, the brilliant mathematician Leonhard Euler calculated the constant pi for the area of a circle to 600 decimal places. This fabulous achievement took him several years. One of the first computers spat out the constant pi, worked out to 2,000 decimal places in a few seconds. As a routine task, a modern computer gives the constant pi to 100,000 decimal places as a nanosecond, which equals 1/1000th of a second. Today, the brain of a computer, its central core, operates with about 1 million information units. In computer jargon, they are called bits. The human brain works in a very similar fashion. Molecular memory units and nerve switches store and process information. The child in the cradle already stores it, even if unconsciously. Throughout our life, we store information so that we can use it on call when we need it. Only too often we have to admit that our brain does not operate very reliably with the hoarded knowledge. The central core of a computer works with precision of a quite different order. Our brain works with more than 15 billion switches, whereas a large modern computer uses only 10 million. Further elements can be set up between the switches by cross connections. Then, why does a computer work so much more reliably than our brain? Because generally, 9/10 of our brain lies fallow, but the computer always has all its bits present. Okay, and this is called data compression. All right, and that is just a side note through me. Even today, the superiority of the computer is shame making. If our brain is to work at its maximum, we have to concentrate on a specific problem, but the computer can solve millions of different problems at the same time. Remember, this is from a half a century ago, okay? Even today, the superiority of the computer, the fastest computer in use in Europe today is in the Institute for Plasma Physics at Gratchen near Munich. It carries out 16,600,000 calculating operations per second. And in the machine's electronic stomach, 750,000 transistors are connected with each other by the shortest way by means of photolithographically produced plugboard diagrams. The electromagnetic waves that make the connections move at the speed of light. Computer people talk of access times of 1.5 nanoseconds as mere routine. In 1.5 nanoseconds, a light ray covers 1 foot 6 inches. But when we learn that the newest computer of the Data Control Corporation performs 36 million calculating operations a second, then the fastest machine in Europe is already a rather antiquated model. In comparison, one of the General Electric models, the GE 235, can be called a home computer. It only solves 165,000 problems a second, but you do not have to buy it. Its services can be hired for 4 cents per second. The Ferrite storage unit of a modern computer houses 200,000 digits in a space of 1 square meter. Magnetic tape storage units swallow up 10 million bits of data. And computers of all kinds are first-class pupils. They check themselves and never make the same mistake twice. Today, computers still need interpreters who translate our languages, figures, and concepts into the various computer languages. Direct conversations with the uncanny creature is expected by 1980. In America, but even more so in England, which is far advanced in its computer techniques, they are trying to dissolve human speech into symbolic groups that the computer understands. Today we know this as the binary code, ones and zeros, okay? This is the direction in which all computer manufacturers are working. But for IBM, the biggest producer of computers, language is far too slow of a means of communication between man and machine. They are looking for another medium of transmitting information. I have said that computer technology is only at the beginning of its greatest possibilities that lie ahead. Future research has an eerie goal: the biotronic storage unit. Nucleic acids appear to possess magnetic properties. Should this assumption prove to be correct, they would be the smallest information carriers of all. If these investigations reach their goals, the processing unit of a computer, which still takes up a lot of room, would be reduced to the size of a human brain. Biotronic information units would only be as big as chain molecules. I think that this line of research will ultimately succeed, but I am afraid that biotronic calculators would be susceptible to infection by viruses and bacteria. Interstellar space travel operates with distances of hundreds of millions of miles. At the speeds that are to be expected, the computer will be more than a mere ready reckoner. Even if computer manufacturers today resist the claim that computers will be able to think and act independently one fine day, that day will come. Then computers will steer spaceships between the planets on their own. Far be it for me to assert that our ancestors knew anything about computers, integrated or electronic measuring apparatus. But since I am convinced that extraterrestrial intelligences visited the Earth, their spacecraft must have operated with suitable instruments. And since we men are programmed by the gods, we shall soon be masters of the same technological miracles. Once again, predictions that came about a half a century ago. Being read from this book here, Gods from Outer Space by Erich von Däniken. And that, my friends, is where we will leave this. Let me know what you think, if you will. I find it highly fascinating that these predictions, for the most part, have become quite the reality today and will be part of our future. Thank you for watching. Take care and have a great one.